kids, the juveniles that were out there doing this. And a lot of it is over the illegal immigration issue. Let me go ahead and just interject this into this conversation. The purpose of this protest Tuesday night, a lot of this was Hispanic, Latino people that were upset, and they are upset at Donald Trump's call for a more secure border. They're upset with his calls to build a wall around the country to keep illegal immigration out. And again, the media frames that as him being racist and him being, a segregist, that he's trying to build walls in America when we should be, opening our borders to everything. And that's the two trains of thought. You've got one train of thought that says, we let everybody in. We don't make them come illegally. We don't make them go by the rules. Open our border. Everybody come in, and that's destroying our country. Donald Trump is only saying what a majority of Americans really feel, that if they're coming in, they've got to come in legally. They've got to come in the right way. Tom, there's millions of people in this country that have come from other countries that have migrated to this country, but they've come the right way. They've come legally. And it's not just an insult what's going on to the American native people, the Native Americans here, and I'm not talking about Indians. I'm talking about people that are born in America, just American born. It's an insult to the immigrants. It's an insult to these people that have come the right way. They have come and went through the process, and they've become American citizens. But again, that always gets lost in the narrative. They never talk about that. It's always that he's just seeking to segregate people and push people out, and that's not true. And there's a lot of things I have a lot of trouble with what Donald Trump says. Trust me, I do. But on this issue of illegal immigration, I'm with him 1,000%. What he's saying is what needs to be done. It's a tough call. I'm not sure we can deport everybody, but you've got to start somewhere of making them follow the law. A country without laws crumbles at its foundation, and we're on the brink of doing that here in America.
I remember, speaking of a couple of thoughts here, speaking of the number of immigrants, illegal immigrants, years ago, we were given the figure of 25 million, and we knew it was more than that. Then it dropped to 20 million. Then it dropped. Now they tell us there are 11 million illegal aliens in this country. When Donald Trump made a statement, everybody ballyhooed him, and I did some. I saw an article published by someone who saying Donald Trump was wrong, and I responded to it and told him Donald Trump was exactly right, because as I said at one time, there were 25 million. We knew it was more than that, and the number has not gotten smaller. I can guarantee you that. So that is true. I remember as you were talking there, I was thinking about Kent State, and with students from Kent State pounding a few National Guardsmen that had rifles with rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, those guardsmen could have stood there and been stoned to death.
Right.
Or they responded, and they responded in a life-saving manner, and I hate to say it, but what comes around goes around, and those students, you don't take a rock to a gunfight. And this is what they were teaching at Kent State, where you could go in the student center and you'd see posters of Chairman Mao and
Exactly.
things like that. They were so far out
Exactly.
of touch. It was so liberal that they were out of touch with real life, and many people in public life are today. We've got people that are in the Senate and Congress that are so liberal they are out of touch with American life. And I figure that there's probably, I'm going to say 40% of the people hardcore Democrats, 40% on the very conservative side, traditionalists, and then you've got a group in the middle that they sort of think things through, and they may be for one side now and the other side a little bit later. But that's where we come to. It's right versus left, and few in the middle.
There's few in the middle, and Tom, not only that, and what's the sad part about that to me is that, again, I don't blame the police officers themselves, because these men, again, are great individuals, and ladies too, women and men, out there on the lines, giving their all, putting their life on the line to protect society, to protect our communities, to protect our citizens. And when they're told by their hierarchy, and this political machinery that is in place, that is so scared now after what happened in Ferguson, to uphold the law. And look, I'm going to say something sort of ugly here. And I hate to say it this way, but if you break the law, if you are a lawbreaker and you go out there and you throw rocks at police and you point guns at police and you do the things that you're doing and you break glass and they tell you to stop and you don't stop, I'm sorry, if you suffer physical consequences, that's not the police's fault, that's your fault. That's the criminal's fault. And the narrative, though, in the media is that they want to blame the police. I heard a comment that the Albuquerque hierarchy out there, which again I respect the police department in general, but the political machinery I have no respect for, because they get on television Tuesday night and they applaud the police. They're saying, well, they showed great restraint and they showed great courage in not reacting to these protesters. But again, by letting the protesters do what they do, all they're doing, Tom, is giving a heads up to other cities. They're showing protesters in other cities, hey, we can do this, and the police ain't going to do nothing to stop us. We can bust glass out. We can scream and burn cars and burn the American flag. And again, we live in a free country. You can do those things. But when I heard, I think it was, I'm not sure who said it, but he said it perfectly. He said, we in America have a right to free speech, but we do not have a right to break the law in anarchy and destroy businesses and destroy cars and destroy property in protesting, even though we have freedom of speech. We don't have the right to be lawbreakers, and that's where this has come down to. And somebody is going to get hurt, Tom, and it's going to happen in such a way. And again, we're just seeing the iceberg right now. Look, we're in May right now. We got 6 months to go, and there's no telling what's ahead of us with this. And wait till this general election gets going, and it's just been him and her. I mean, this was just a speech where he didn't even need New Mexico. He was just there giving a campaign rally. I mean, it wasn't even a vote, and this erupted. It was, and again, it was just a pathetic display of thugs and criminals. And there needs to be a response from the law enforcement community that this is not going to be tolerated in our cities. It's got to happen.
It needs to be firm arrest, wrong arrest, time in jail, and court time.
Court time, absolutely.
It needs to be court time. And court time, they just remain in jail until the judge comes around. It was interesting. You know what they used to do to looters?
Mm-hmm. Shoot them.
Shoot them.
They shot them and didn't have and look, and again, if you break the law, you break into somebody's business and you do stuff like that, again, that is your fault. If you get hurt and you get shot, it's not the police's fault that they uphold the law. And when you break the law, you suffer the consequences. But that concept has gotten lost in this country, Tom, and I tell you, it's all that is doing is opening the door for a lawlessness that is going to destroy America ultimately at the core. Because without laws, we have nothing in this land. We just don't.
A couple of thoughts. Get your comments on any of them you like. The Trump presidency is sometimes we were talking earlier before we went on the air that sometimes Donald Trump treads where probably should not in deeper water than he thinks. He stepped into a mess. I guess it was yesterday. That's when I saw the video where he was criticizing the New Mexico governor, who we will need a little bit later. She wasn't fond of him. She didn't give her full support to his candidacy, but still, it's best not to go places like that. And you were high on her as a vice presidential candidate, and I think others were as well. But I guess that ship has sunk.
Well, last month I was here. I made the comment that one of the potential ladies and one of the potential persons he needed to look at for his running mate that I think would really stabilize the ticket with the Republican Party was Susana Martinez. She is a great governor of New Mexico. She inherited a mess from a Democratic governor before that basically the state was falling. And by the way, the former governor that she inherited the mess from is a big Hillary Clinton supporter, which we'll just throw that in. But the state was in a mess when she took it over, and a lot of the problems that Donald was trying to lay on her in his speech is not her fault. But again, this is the double-edged sword me and you've talked about so often this year about Donald Trump. What we love about him, we wind up hating about him. He's sort of surging in the polls right now. I don't know if you saw it last night. Bill Bennett, who is probably one of the best surgeon generals this country's ever had. Great guy. He's always been a real conservative kind of guy, a real common sense guy, which I like more than whether he's conservative or not. I just want him to have common sense. But he made a statement that was very appropriate. He said, when you're ahead in politics, he said it's almost more dangerous when things are going good than when things are going bad. He said, when things are going bad, you tend to watch every single word you say, you watch where you go, you're so cautious about anything. And he said, when you get ahead in the polls, and he said, when Donald Trump right now with this surge that he's going, he said, Donald has forgotten that, the things that got him to where he's at, he's about to destroy all that by saying stupid things like he said about Martinez. She's female, she's Latina, she may not agree totally with his immigration situation, but again, that's where you get in a room and you sit down and you chat with her and you come to a consensus and you say, look, we have some disagreements, let's find common ground, just like he did with Paul Ryan, just like he's done with the Republican leadership over the last month. And I'm with you. I think he stuck his foot in it there, Tom. But again, there's been so many things that I thought Donald Trump stuck his foot in, and then he surges in the polls 10 points the next day. So go figure. I don't know. I don't know if this is going to hurt him or not, but I didn't like what he said, and I felt like it was a low blow. And being in her state, that was the other thing. You don't go to her state and do it. It's just uncool. But that's what we've come to embrace with Donald Trump. He is who he is.
And that's what's made him popular, because I think many people, we discussed this, many people feel that he is the only person in there that can go into Washington and break up the good old boy buddy system where you protect me and I'll protect you and all of that. And is also the producer of people such as Barack Obama. So I can see that. But I don't see Donald Trump changing.
No, and let me tell you this, the one thing about him, and I think that we'll see this when these debates come up in the fall, the Clinton machine that he's going to go up against is a vicious, ugly political machine. People forget some of the things that they did back in the 90s when Bill was running in 92 and also 96 in re-election. And even when Al Gore was going up against Bush, Clinton was sort of behind the scenes trying to help him get elected. And a lot of these Clinton operatives, they go out and they say some of the most ugliest things too. The media don't talk to us about those things, of course. It's only what Donald Trump says. But to be able to fight the Clinton machine that's coming in November, you're going to have somebody like Donald Trump. I know that I'm not going to say whether I agree or disagree with him bringing up Bill's past and some of the infidelity issues that he had while in office and as president. I think that, unfortunately, though, Mrs. Clinton can't have it both ways. You can't attack Donald Trump for being sexist and being hard on women when you and your husband were hard on women during their time. So if you're going to sling the mud at him, you better get ready for it's coming back. It's not like McCain and Romney. McCain and Romney were so weak when they got attacked. And I think that it's a breath of fresh air for some of us to see a candidate, granted, may not like everything he says, may not agree with everything he says, but at least he's willing to fight, Tom. And I think that has been more of his popularity than anything else, that people see in him that he's not willing to just lay down when he's attacked, because this machine that's coming at him is going to attack him. They're already attacking him. They're not even officially the nominee yet. So, yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting brawl. And I told you, me and you'll buy the pay-per-view, and I'll pay for that if you'll bring the popcorn.
I did bring the popcorn. That's no problem. Okay, let me switch gears again, and let's go to Hillary and her emails and indictments. Everybody talks about it. They expect an indictment to come down in the not too distant future. I'm saying she's bulletproof, and nothing will ever come out of it except talk.
Nothing but talk. And even this thing yesterday with the State Department, this was not a right-wing conspiracy group. This was not a Republican group. This was her own State Department that she served as Secretary of State for. They came out yesterday and basically faulted her for the mismanagement and handling of those emails. The report that I read a little bit of this morning coming up here, they basically told her that this was unacceptable policy in 2013, that it was not good policy, and if she would have just asked them, could she have a personal server at her home, they would have told her no, and she still did it anyway. And that's from the State Department. Now, what the FBI is doing is they've sort of been hush-hush about it, but see, we're coming up in May, and I just don't see, if they've not already indicted her, Tom, a last-minute Hail Mary in the summer where they're